Biases and stereotypes hurt and separate us. Open hearts and minds heal and unite us.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain. Today's flight to Harrisburg is a full flight. Please stow your carry-on items either in the overhead compartment or under the seat in front of you. Offer a friendly smile when a person walking down the aisle looks your way. One way or another, that seat next to you is going to be filled.
Well, hello there. Great weather for flying. What you reading there? It looks real interesting.
The Duke Journal of Gender Law and Policy.
Oh. Oh, are you a legal secretary?
No,
Is your husband an attorney?
no, I don't have one of those.
You don't have a...
A husband.
Oh,
I don't have a husband.
oh, that's too bad.
I'm reading this because I'm an attorney.
You know, girls can do just about anything these days.
Yes, you do thankfully find women in an interesting number of fields.
I'm going to Harrisburg. That's where I live. Where are you going?
Also to Harrisburg.
Oh, well, we will welcome you to the Burg.
Thank you, I'm moving there.
Listen, I'm on my church's welcoming committee. I bet you're going to want to join a church.
Can you tell me by looking at me whether I'm going to want to be at a church or a synagogue or a mosque?
Well, I just assumed you do go to church, don't you?
Well, the truth is, I would love to have a loving, supporting, accepting church family.
Well, that's exactly what my church is. And since you don't have a husband, maybe we can help you find a man.
I'm not looking for a husband.
Oh, every girl wants a husband. I just assumed that you do.
I'm really sure I don't want one.
Don't you want a family?
I have a family.
Oh, you have children.
I have a wife.
You are a... I never would have guessed. Well, who married you to?
Our pastor. He joyfully blesses couples, all couples, as they enter marriage. And he grieves over the number of gay people who assume he wouldn't bless their marriage.
Your pastor married you two women. Excuse me, but they don't do that in my church. No offense.
Do you realize that that is offensive? And it breaks my heart.
I didn't mean... I'm sorry. I thought you knew that many churches don't allow that. I just assumed.
Of course I know. Of course I know there are churches whose doors are not open to everyone.
Oh, my church's doors are open to everyone.
So a same-sex couple could get married in your church?
Well, no, they cannot.
Can a pastor who is gay be called to your church?
Oh, no.
What about your lay leaders? Are any of them gay?
We think it's best if church members keep their sexual orientation private.
Unless they have a husband.
Oh, well.
Do you have any idea what it's like wondering which person of faith will damn you because of who you love?
Oh, dear God. I never thought of it that way.
I've been told that Jesus always stands on the side of the judged and the excluded.
Oh, well, yes, we do say that.
I have a friend, a 60-year-old man. He's a devout Catholic and gay.
Does his priest know?
My friend confesses and his sexual orientation to his priest regularly. His priest shows him kindness and urges him to keep coming to church. But they both know that if others knew that he was gay, he would be faced with rejection from his church family.
Well, yes, I do know that has happened in some churches.
God has mercy. Too often the church does not.
Well, I don't remember my pastor preaching about mercy exactly, but he does often preach about strengthening and supporting the moral fabric of society.
The moral fabric of society is not strengthened by preaching disdain for any of God's children. Jesus is not known for his rejection of anyone.
But Christians can't love everyone.
You're not saying that people have to choose between loving and being a Christian?
Oh, no.
I have friends who have never come out at work for that very reason. The threat of being treated differently by people who have known them and liked them for years, but who would reject them because of who they love.
I bet it's hard hiding that you're a lesbian at work. I'm assuming you do hide.
I don't hide my spouse from anyone any more than my coworkers hide theirs.
Oh, your coworkers know? Do you really want people to know?
Well, I'm not an arsonist. I'm a lesbian. And that defines just one part of me, just as you being heterosexual defines just one part of you.
I never thought of it that way. But may I ask, are you sure that that sexual preference was a wise choice, particularly in your field?
Did you choose to be straight? It's not a preference. It's not a choice. It's who I am. And please listen to this. It's how God made me.
You keep bringing God into this. But isn't it risky for people to know?
I can't live that way. I can't live hiding, worrying about who will judge or exclude me.
But if you were treated unfairly at work because you are a lesbian, you could always file a discrimination complaint.
You're talking about the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission that enforces the state's anti-discrimination law.
Yes, I've heard that people can file complaints and get a thorough investigation and get a remedy of some kind to settle or fix whatever kind of discrimination was done to them. I've read about this. People can file discrimination complaints in employment situations or in education if their children are treated unfairly, or in housing, like they went to rent or buy a home, or even in stores or restaurants.
Yes, you're correct. State and federal civil rights laws do provide protections against many types of discrimination, just not on the basis of sexual orientation or sexual identity.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just assumed.
But that would be a reasonable assumption.
But you can get married.
Yes, and get fired when my boss learns who I married.
But if you were treated unfairly because you are a woman, you could file a discrimination complaint about that, right?
Yes, many places are ready for women. They're just not ready for a gay woman.
So how can the Pennsylvania Human Relations Act be changed?
Well, you'd have to contact your legislator, urge your friends to do the same, write a letter to the editor, talk about discrimination as a spiritual issue.
Oh, Lord. But doesn't Pennsylvania have a hate crimes law that protects gay people?
Pennsylvania does have a hate crimes law. It does not protect people who are gay.
Oh, Lord, I didn't know. I just assumed.
You know, you say that a lot.
Well, I do a lot of assuming because I don't know any gay people and I don't have any gay relatives.
How many people are in your extended family?
Oh, we have a big family. Probably with my kids and grandchildren and nephews and nieces and first cousins and all their kids, probably at least 45 of us.
Well, then you're likely to have 3 of your gay relatives to know that they are safe and respected in your home and in your heart.
3?
The average is about 1 out of every 11 people.
I did not assume that.
Please, spread the word.
Listen, I've always wanted to ask this. What is the gay agenda?
It is a human being agenda to be accepted.
And may I ask, well, what about public bathrooms?
Let me assure you that gay and transgender people want to spend the least amount of time in a public restroom as humanly possible. It is one of the places where gay and transgender people are most likely at risk for being harmed.
Oh dear God. Look, I may not have sounded it, but I'm embarrassed, and I'm sorry about the number of things I've said that have been hurtful to you. The truth is, I've been able to go through my life just not thinking about what life is like for people who are gay.
Did you perhaps assume that your attitude had no impact on others, gay or straight?
Well, I've actually never done anything to harm gay people.
Have you ever told a gay joke or been silent when others have told them? Used slurs like fag or been silent when someone used them? Have you ever heard about someone else harming people who were gay or been silent?
Oh, dear God. Two young men, whom we assume are gay, live in the next block, and someone spray painted profanities on their house and the word fag on the front of their house, and I think I heard that their tires were slashed, and I did read that the police have not figured out who did it. But we think it was just a prank done by some kids.
Really? Just a prank by some kids? Serious criminal vandalism motivated by hatred, a prank? Did neighborhood spokespeople or clergy or elected leaders, or did you speak up and say, we are appalled at this act of hatred happened in our community, and we are particularly troubled that our young people may have done it, and we will never remain silent in the face of hate?
There was a lot of silence.
Your silence is a welcome mat for hate. Your silence says, these acts of hatred are okay with me.
But they're really not okay with me.
Then speak up.
So where do you go from here?
I believe the question is really, where do you go from here? Peace be with you.
And with you.
How did the gay community react when marriage equality was passed?
Most that I know of were very happy. There were many who were waiting for this to happen in order to get married. Probably within the first week and a half after it was legalized, I probably did 20 weddings, and most of them were for couples who had been together for 30 years or more and had just been waiting, and were waiting for their home state to do it in Pennsylvania. They didn't want to leave the state to have their wedding. And then you had some who weren't happy, and because it also changed some legalities for those, especially for heterosexuals who were living in common law marriages, it changed some of the legalities for them. So there were pluses and those who were for it and those who were against it. But most of, especially in my congregation, most people were thrilled to death.
What led you to write this play?
This answer comes from a straight woman who goes to church a lot. I grew up in a church where I heard good church-going folks tell jokes about a lot of people, including gay people. And as an adult, I have had a job that's taken me across the state doing community seminars, many of which were hosted by churches. And it was dismaying to hear so many good church folks express a broad variety of biases comfortably, including biases against people in the LGBT community. We intentionally presented the character I play to not be mean-spirited, but rather she was culturally isolated. She was unknowing. Neither she nor her church had challenged her to push beyond her biases and her stereotypes. But she does have a heart. And as her mind was opened, her heart opened. Okay.
Thank you both. This is so helpful. And my question is for Pastor Laurie. Do you have people, or have you had people in your congregation who have been denied housing or a job or have experienced some ugly situation in a public place?
Yes, I have, both here in the congregation here in Pennsylvania and also in my congregation when I was in Florida. I had a young man in my Florida church lose his job once his boss found out he was gay. And he was a manager of a restaurant, and as soon as the boss found out he was gay, he was fired. Here in Pennsylvania, we had an issue with one of my members who is transgendered, and she lived in fear every day of going home and having her landlord find out she was transgendered. So she would come to church and change her clothes and be the person that she needed to be, but before she would go home, she would change her clothes again because she was so afraid of losing her apartment, that she couldn't be her authentic person until she got into her home. So as she's crossing her parking lot, she has to be a different person because of the attitude of her landlord. So these things are still happening. They are happening all over, and it's terrible to have to live in fear.
And with no protections under state civil rights law.
We can get married today and get fired tomorrow.
Could you please tell us about all the initials in LGBTQ and the correct way to address them?
Okay. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, but you'll also hear people use other letters. So there's a Q, which could mean one of two different things. It could either be queer or questioning. And it is quite appropriate you'll hear people in the LGBT community use the word queer. We're kind of reclaiming it as not a derogatory word and keeping it as an acceptable word that covers everyone. You'll also hear things like inquiring. So sometimes you'll see an I. You'll see people who are using different ways of identifying themselves, like they'll say of themselves, calling themselves they or their, because they do not fit into or do not accept the binary of male-female. So instead of saying I am he or she, they will use the terms they or their to express themselves as not fitting into what the normative language is. There are many other letters that can also be used. There's pansexual and there's so many different letters, but the right way to use them is to ask the person how they want to be addressed.
And I have a question about the term queer. Doesn't it depend a lot on who's saying it and
Yes.
their motivation?
Right. I remember as a kid my grandmother using the word queer. She did not use it in a nice way. But when I say to folks that I'm queer, I'm saying that I'm part of the LGBT community. And I'm using it in a proper, appropriate manner, not in a derogatory manner.
I'd like to know if you ever feel like you have to be an educator when you're going about your daily life's activities.
Every day. Every day. I'm constantly educating. And I always take teachable moments. When I'm in the community working on different activities with folks and a question comes up, I jump right in with an answer. Or if something is happening that isn't appropriate, I'll jump in to stop it. Even when I'm at church, I take every teachable moment that I can, because my church welcomes both gay and straight, LGBT and others who wish to come, and sometimes there has to be a time of education. We still need to keep teaching about AIDS. We still need to keep the proper way of addressing people. I still have to deal with folks asking, well, this is a transgender person, he was born a he, and now she looks like a she, so how do I address her? And I reply to them, number one, you could ask, but number two, if they're dressed as a female, you address her as she. If they're there in a suit and tie, you're going to call them a he. So you have to find out from the individual, and so there's always teaching going on and education going on.
The truth is, I don't understand why anyone would choose to be homosexual in a country that treats gay people so poorly. It just doesn't seem like a wise decision.
You know, when I hear that kind of question, little hairs on the back of my neck go up, because it's not something we choose. And I'm going to use myself as an example. I'm here in this activity representing a lesbian woman, and I am a lesbian woman. And as far as I'm concerned, I've been a lesbian all of my life since the moment I was born. It wasn't a choice. You know, it's not like I got up one morning and said, what can I do to make my family really unhappy, to alienate my brother so he'll never talk to me again, and lose some friends and have to be treated as something than other, and think, well, why don't I be a lesbian? That's not what happens. What happens with all of us as we mature, we realize sexual things are going on in our lives, whether it's a heterosexual person or a homosexual person. I bet you a heterosexual person never woke up and thought, I should be heterosexual today. That's just who they are. When it comes to a homosexual person, a transgendered person, a bisexual person, how they identify by their sexual orientation is how they were born. It's just who we are. It's not a choice thing, it's a biological thing. It's a genetic thing. You know, I was very happy once I came out with my parents to learn that there were other LGBT people in my family. And they didn't tell me this until after I came out to them. But again, it's not a choice, it's who we are. It's just part of us. It's no different than my having freckles or curly hair or green eyes. It's just who I am, it's not a choice. And if it was a choice, this is now who I am, and I've been this way for almost 60 years. I don't know if I could have any other life, because this is who I am.